Good evening, everyone. We're glad that you're with us tonight as we continue to have our Wednesday night life. And as you know, we've invited folks to join us here in the auditorium, and we're glad that you're with us. It certainly helps to be able to see the folks that are listening and joining us and fellowshipping with us. Tonight, we get to start something different. One of my favorite things about Fairmont Park is that we're going to have a summer series that we're going to start in late July. It's definitely summer, isn't it?
It's summertime.
It's summertime.
But we are under 100.
Yes, and it rained.
It rained tonight.
Now,
great.
some people have already told me that it hasn't rained at their house.
I hope it's rained in Greenwood.
So the comment was it may rain on the just and the unjust. Yeah, so
of course.
We'll sort of figure that out. Well, you might let us know if you got rain or not, and we'll kind of know which category you're in. But we did get rain tonight. It's cooled off a little bit. But one of my favorite things about Fairmont Park is the number of our brothers who are willing to share a message from God's Word and who do a great job with it.
Yes. So last year was my first summer here. And so, I heard you told me we're talking about what we're going to do this summer. We've got some of the men in the congregation are going to be teaching. I thought, oh, well, that's neat. Mm-hmm. So I came and was wanting to hear some of these guys teach. I don't know if I had great expectations. I hope that doesn't offend anybody. But the thing is, I was blown away. I was blown away at preparation. I was blown away by the depth of the things they discovered and things that they shared. The transparency as they talked about how they tried to live out those truths. And you already knew this, and I think you had said it, but I discovered for myself that, hey, I'm part of a church that has some depth of teachers here. So I was just really excited about the series. And because of that, now I'm excited about it coming up. And now I have high expectations. Well,
and you should, especially with our speaker tonight. Set your expectations on maximum, and he will deliver. We're looking forward to that. But both of us, you and I, have been in ministry for a number of years. Now, you've been in ministry for 65 years?
Not close.
Not close, okay.
35.
So we're not saying lightly when we say it really is impressive, because both of us have been involved with other congregations over the years, and I would wish this was more common, but I just want to say thank you.
It's usually a struggle.
It is. Thank you to the brothers that do this and bring such quality, not just on Wednesday nights. We see them in Sunday morning teaching classes and so on. I'll tell you one other little tidbit that really impressed me. My brother D. Fryer was telling me he helps, along with Tate Tinley, organize different guys that teach. And Dee was telling me about a Sunday that somebody got sick and they couldn't come, and so he kind of found out, pretty short notice. And, I would expect in other places I've been, come grab a preacher, right? Because we've always got something to say.
Preacher's job if it's last minute.
Well, we've always got something worth saying. I should have said it that way, right? But they just handled it. And they're like, well, and he's done that one time, and another brother did that one time, and just appreciate the depth and the willingness that we have. So tonight we start a series on the fruits of the Spirit from Galatians chapter 5. So if you have your Bibles with you tonight, I'd encourage you to open them to Galatians chapter 5. We'll begin with the first fruit, with the fruit of love. But I want to mention as we start in this series, the idea of fruit is an important and insightful concept that the Bible uses. For example, in Matthew 7, Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, when he was talking about beware of the false prophets and so on, he said, you'll know them by their fruits. And in fact, in Matthew 7, about verse 17, he says, so every good tree produces good fruit, but the bad tree produces bad fruit. Earlier, John the Baptist said, bear forth fruit in keeping with repentance, when he was talking to the Pharisees about being baptized. That the idea of fruit is what is produced in your life. And so Paul really takes us to task in Galatians 5 about what should be produced in our life if the Holy Spirit dwells within us. And we're going to get that first one tonight. But before we do,
so we've been doing something called our Fairmont Park Member Spotlight, and we have one tonight. So we want to let you know a little bit more about a couple, Tyler and Charles Bethea, and their two girls. And I'm really excited about showing them because I really felt bad for them. They placed membership in late February, and then 2 weeks later we closed church for a while.
So it's their fault.
They just barely got started.
Okay.
So anyway, we have a video tonight, and we want you to get to know better Tyler, Chelsea, Bethea, and family. Tonight, our Fairmont Park Member Spotlight is Tyler and Chelsea Bethea. Many of you may not know the Bethayas really well, as they placed membership here right before the COVID-19 pandemic. Tyler and Chelsea moved to Midland last August as Tyler got a new position in his company. He works for XDO Energy as a field digital lead. Chelsea stays at home and homeschools their 2 girls. Izzy is 8 years old, likes to paint, and she loves board games. Layla is 6 years old. She loves giraffes and reading genealogies from the Bible. Yes, you did hear that right. The Bethayas have been married for 10 years. They met at the Christian Campus Center at Angelo State in 2008. Tyler became a Christian when he was 11 and was baptized by his grandpa, who was a preacher. Chelsea became a Christian when she was 15. She never went to church growing up, but started going when she was 13. And at age 15, she felt Jesus calling her, and she was baptized. One thing many people don't know about Tyler is that he is multilingual. Tyler also enjoys painting and programming electronics. The one meal he could eat for the rest of his life is popcorn. And his favorite holiday tradition is eating his dad's ambrosia. One surprising fact about Chelsea is that she competed in a powerlifting competition this year. She also enjoys baking and home renovation projects. She could eat thin crust pesto pizza and fries for the rest of her life. The most daring thing Chelsea has ever done was bungee jumping in New Zealand when she was 16. She found it both exhilarating and terrifying. The Bethaya family has connected with several young families through the new young adult Bible class. We look forward to having them grow deeper into the life of the church here at Fairmont Park.
Good evening. My name is Russell Winkley, and here at Fairmont Park Church of Christ, if you are visiting via television, the answer is no. Someone did not sit on the remote and change it to ESPN or the Spurs basketball. I'm actually wearing a Spurs jersey. So, and you're probably wondering, why is Russell wearing a Spurs jersey? And you'll probably figure that out in just a little bit. And if you're really smart, you probably already figured it out, because the whole lesson of this new series, we're talking about the fruits of the Spirit, but the lesson tonight is about love. And it's interesting how you can tell a lot about a person and what they love by what they do and maybe even what they wear. For instance, there is here at Fairmont a young man, and I really don't even know how old he is. He's in 4th or 5th or 10th grade or something like that. And his name is Kobe Sherrill. And if you know anything about Kobe, you know that he loves OU. He runs around with his little OU junk all the time, his shirts and stuff. All he talks about is OU this and OU that. And so Kobe loves OU. The same way that Jason Stockstill loves Texas Tech. All he talks about is Texas Tech this and Texas Tech that. And I need to take a time out and just make sure that you understand that just because somebody loves something doesn't mean it's right, okay? Like Texas Tech. So I don't understand, what Texas Tech gives. But anyway, and then, of course, we always have Mike. If you run into Mike out of his church clothes and you see him out in Midland out and about, you probably see him and he probably has some type of little hat on, or maybe a little shirt that says, has a picture of an airplane, or maybe a little shirt that says, I'm a pilot, I'm great, or something like that, or pilots are great. So you can really tell a lot about a person by what they wear and kind of what they talk about and do. So obviously you can tell right now that this is not just a regular Tim Duncan jersey. This is a commemorative Tim Duncan jersey. And so obviously I like the Spurs and I like Tim Duncan. And as a matter of fact, we actually had some season tickets to the Spurs a couple years ago. And I would basically, on Tuesday or Thursday, I'd leave Midland by 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon if there was a game down in San Antonio. And I would just run down there. The game was probably at 6:30. I'd get down there just in time, about 6. If I leave at 1 or 2, get down there about 6 and watch the game. It'd finish up 9:30, 10. I'd jump in the car, head back to Midland, be back by 2 or 3 in the morning, and go to work the next day. And why would some idiot do that unless they love something? And I did. I loved the Spurs back then. Not so much now, but back then. And so, I really think heaven is going to be like a Spurs game. And let me go ahead and give you a little bit more information on that. If you saw, or if you know anything about basketball, and I need to specify, it's the Spurs game, the national championship in 2014. I really think heaven is going to be like that. And maybe some of you have been to a championship game, and maybe some of you haven't. So I'm going to go ahead and give you an example and kind of run you through what happens at a Spurs championship game, 2014. Obviously, we're playing the Miami Heat. You had LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. So what happens, how this all goes down is you drive up, you're in the parking lot, and you look out, and everybody is in the same, looks just like you. You look, and there's a few people that have Heat shirts on it, and you don't care about them. But you look, and everybody has on Spurs jerseys, and man, you're excited. You go in the AT&T Center, 21,000 people is what it holds. So everybody's in there, it's all packed in, man. You see people, you don't even know. Everybody's different colors, white, brown, black, all different colors. But everybody has a common idea, a common love. And they're all excited about this game. And you see this guy, and you're like, hey man, you look awesome. And he's like, oh, you look awesome. And you don't even know this guy. And so you're giving him high fives and stuff like that. That was before COVID, when you could actually touch somebody and give them a high five. And so you go, and then you're finding your way to the seat. So you get in there and you find your seat and you sit down. About that time, the lights go down. And so, man, you're all excited. Here it comes, here it comes. And then all of a sudden the lights come back up because they're announcing the starters for the Miami Heat, which nobody cares about. So you go ahead and let them do that. Then the lights go back down and they start with the Spurs. And so then, it's Dial, whatever his face is. And so then Kawhi Leonard, and everybody's like, oh, then Tim Duncan, everybody's going crazy. And then all of a sudden Tony Parker, and everybody's going crazy. And then finally Manu Ginobili, and Root goes crazy, and all the Argentinians go just ballistic and crazy, and the place erupts, and the lights come on, and so the game starts. The game goes on, and so we're down to the last 2 minutes. And so it's 2 minutes, Spurs are down by 4 points. It's a little scary. So all of a sudden, LeBron James has the ball. He goes ahead, and he's fixing to make a shot, and Tim Duncan, he blocks it. And he shoots it over to Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi gets it. He shoots it to Tony Parker. Tony does this zigging and zagging and stuff like he does, a little Italian guy or French guy, and does a spin, puts it in, layup, boom, 2 points. We are 2 points down. So, but the bad thing is we only have 16 seconds. So obviously the Heat has the ball. They throw it. Dwayne Wade tries to get it to LeBron James, but Tim Duncan, 7 foot, he jumps up, grabs the ball, throws it over to Tony Parker. Tony knows that there's no way he can make it all the way down. So he looks over and he sees Manu Ginobili. So he throws it to Manu Ginobili. 0.3 of a second left. Manu launches the ball, 100 feet probably, for a three-pointer. Bam, 3 seconds, hits it, bam. The Spurs win by 1 point. The place erupts. It's pandemonium. Everybody's crazy. That's what heaven's going to be like, times a million. So all those people have the same intensity, the same love. And so that's what we're going to be talking tonight about love. Now then, obviously we're not going to be talking about Spurs love, so let's go ahead and talk about the biblical love. So before we start, if you want to go ahead and you can turn to Galatians 5, and that's what we're going to be talking about, but I need to give you a little bit of background information. What's happening? So basically, Paul, he's writing to these guys, these new Christians in Galatia. And what has happened is you got these new Christians, these Gentiles, and they're trying to be good Christians. But you have some other Christians, and these are the older guys that are the Jewish guys. And so they grew up with the law under Moses, and they said, hey, we have these traditions and these things that you have to do to be a good Christian. And so the Gentile, the new converts are like, wait, I thought we didn't have to do that. Are we really supposed to do that? And so they're confused. And so Paul is trying to explain to them and says, hey, look, this is, I want to explain it to you. You live by the Spirit. Your life should be by the Spirit. And I'm going to explain to you the difference, what you look for. And so Paul's telling them, hey, I want you to know what to look for and what not to look for. And so if you think about it, Paul's really like an Uber. He's probably the first person to do the Uber. Because if you think about those little Uber apps, what do? you press a button. I'm here at Fairmont. I need to get to Walmart. I don't want to walk. And so I press my little Uber app, and it says, hey, Russell. The little ping goes out, and this Uber guy says, hey, I'll come pick you up. And I said, thank you. I confirm it. And it says, Russell, this is what you're looking for. You're looking for John. He's going to be in a red Porsche. His license plate says, I am rich. And then John also gets a little confirmation that says, you're going to be picking up Russell at Fairmont Park Church of Christ. Boom. And so that's basically what Paul was doing with these new converts, or these new Christians, these Gentiles, saying, look, I'm going to explain to you what to look for. And then I'm also going to explain to you what not to look for, because you don't want to get in the wrong Uber. So let's go ahead and start with chapter 19, or excuse me, verse 19. There's not 19 chapters in Galatians, FYI. So basically, before we start that, Paul is saying you got two choices. You can live by the Spirit, or you can go ahead and live by the sinful desires. So that's what Paul's fixing to talk to these guys about. So in Galatians 5, verse 19, he says, the acts of the sinful nature are obvious: sexual immorality, impurity and debauchery, idolatry and witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage. Okay, wait a second. Hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage. Well, if you've watched the news any in the last 2 or 3 months, you might have seen some of those. That's kind of interesting, I would say. So anyway, continuing on, selfish ambition, dissension, factions, and envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. I warn you, as I did before, that those who live like this will not inherit the kingdom of God. So he's telling them, he says, look, guys, if y'all go down this road, that's it. You can't inherit heaven. And that's the road that you're going to go down. But let me give you an alternative. Let me give you this road. And he says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. He's trying to tell them, say, look, these guys are talking about the law, and if you follow this, the fruits of the Spirit, if you're led by the Spirit, live a life of the Spirit, you don't have to worry about the law. You don't have to worry about these traditions and things like that. So that is kind of the background of what's happening. And of course, we're going to be talking about the first fruit, which is love. And, you know, if you think about it, it's really not a coincidence that love is the first one. I mean, if you look in verse 14, go ahead and look in verse 14 right before Paul states. He says, hey, well, he doesn't say hey. He says, the entire law is summed up in a single command. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. Now, some of you at home are sitting there going, wow, love your neighbor as yourself. I've heard that before. And exactly, you sure have. So go ahead, and you're probably thinking about Matthew 22, and you are. So go ahead and turn over to Matthew 22, 35. And in Matthew 22, 35, this is obviously the great command, the greatest command. And it says one of them, and this is talking about the teachers of the law, and they're trying to test Jesus. And it says one of them, an expert of the law, tested him with his questions. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? And Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. So basically, what is he saying? He's saying God is love. The whole New Testament, that's all it's really talking about is love. God is love. And really, Paul, he didn't even really have to in the fruits of the Spirit. He could have just stopped with the first one, love. Because love actually encompasses all the other fruits, joy and peace and patience and things like that. So Paul realized that there's going to be people like Russell that didn't really, follow the road and needed a few more road markers. It's like, hey, let's help this guy out. So we'll go ahead and throw a few more fruits out there. And by the way, why don't we go ahead and explain what love is? Because Russell probably doesn't know what that is. So let's go ahead, and most of you have already turned your Bibles over to the famous love chapter and love verse. And every couple in here and out there knows this verse and this whole thing. So let's go ahead and turn over there. 1 Corinthians 13:4. Most of you have already started, elbowing your spouse and talking to them about it. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in the evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Man, and I probably 90% of the people, especially married people, they have that little verse somewhere in their house, most of the time in their bathroom, so they can remind their spouse, say, honey, don't forget, we don't need to keep records of wrongs. Please let's quit bringing that up, or be patient with me, or whatever. So we always go to that verse right there. What is love? So a lot of you are saying, that's awesome, we got a definition of it, but Russell, what does love actually look like? Because that's kind of, yeah, we got a definition, but what does it look like? So there are a ton of biblical examples of love. And really, you can find whatever one you like. And I'm going to throw out just a couple and go ahead and explain them. And one of my favorite stories of all is about these four guys. And they're great friends. And they have this other friend. And this other friend, he can't walk. He's a paralytic. And so one day, the four friends, they're like, hey, man, I heard, and by the way, this isn't the New International Version or the Revised Version. This is Russell's version, so it's paraphrased. So these four friends tell the paralytic, they're like, guess what? I heard that Jesus is coming to town, and he's going to be in this house. So why don't we go ahead and take you so that you can get healed? These friends love this, the four friends loved the paralytic enough that they said, let's go ahead and take you to Jesus. So the day came when Jesus was there, so they got him, and I don't know how they all did it, if they had ropes or what, but anyway, all four of them picked him up on his mat, and off they went. And I don't know how far it was. Maybe it was a block, maybe it was 2 blocks, maybe it was a half a day's trail, or a walk, or maybe it was a whole day. I don't know. But these four friends loved the paralytic enough. They said, you know what? We're going to walk and we're going to take you over to see Jesus. So they get there to the house. And of course, as you know, the house was full. It was standing room only. It was packed. You couldn't even go in the front door. And so the friends are like, hey, excuse me, we have a friend here. He's paralytic. He can't walk. We need to get him to Jesus so that way Jesus can heal him and everything will be real cool. And the guy at the door is like, man, can't you see it is jam-packed? There's no way that you can get him in there. And by the way, can you be quiet because I'm trying to listen. I'm in the back. I can barely hear, and you're really being loud. And so the friends love this guy enough to say, well, that's not going to work. We need to figure something else out. So one of the friends says, they're like, what are we going to do? And one of the friends says, hey, thinking outside the box, why don't we go ahead and drop him from the roof? We can make a hole in the roof and drop him down. And the other friend said, well, that's a stupid idea. Did you bring a shovel because we have to dig the roof, or did you bring some rope to let him down or something like that? And anyway, thank goodness, the other friend said, no, I didn't, but I bet we can figure it out. So the friends decide, okay, let's do that. Let's think outside the box because we love this guy. And so they do. They go up to the top of the roof and they start digging, however they did that. But the Bible does say digging, so I guess there's some dirt and stuff involved and maybe some tools, I don't know. And so then on the inside, Jesus is sitting there teaching, and you got these teachers of law in there with their black, I'm assuming their black little suits or whatever they wore, their little outfits. And all of a sudden, there's a lot of noise up there, and all of a sudden some dust starts kind of falling a little bit, and then a chunk of dirt. And maybe some of the dirt hit one of those teachers of law. He's like, what in the world? What's all this noise? There's dust. This is terrible. It's getting my black. Somebody go take care of this. So he sends his little servant outside, and he says, hey, go upstairs, and I don't know what's going on up there, but you need to tell him to shut that down because, 1, you're getting dirt on me. 2, I'm fixing to really test this teacher guy, this Jesus guy, and I have to be thinking. I've got to be on my A game. And so I'm fixing to take him down. So y'all guys, that's bothering me. So he sends him up there. The little guy goes up there, and the friends are sitting here, and they're digging away. They're making a bigger hole, and the little guy comes up and says, hey, time out, guys. You guys need to shut this down. Jesus, there's a guy named Jesus. He's down there. He's preaching. We got the teachers of the law, the real important people. They're down there, and you are making a scene. Dirt's flying down. It's getting on people. We're getting dirt in our nostrils and all this kind of stuff. So y'all just need to shut it down. and some dirt hit one of the big guys. And so they're like, okay, thank you for letting us know that. And the little guy goes down, and they keep going because they love their friend enough to not listen to the other people. They didn't listen to people that are trying to shut them down. So they go ahead, they make their hole in the dirt, in the roof, and then they go ahead and they lower their friend down. And guess what? They lower their friend down, and Jesus sees this guy. And he sees it, and he sees the faith, and he sees the love, and he heals him. And he heals him. And that right there is an excellent, an awesome example of what love is, what love for a friend is. That's a good example to see what it looks like. And there's a lot of examples. Another one would be Jesus when he's walking along, and there's this little guy, shorter than me, and his name is Zacchaeus. And he can't even see because all the crowd and stuff, so he gets up in this tree, and the big thing is he's a tax collector. Nobody likes tax collectors. They're like murderers. They're like on the bottom of the list. Everybody hates them. And so Jesus comes along, and he sees him, and he says, hey, you know what, Zacchaeus? Why don't you come on down, and I'd really like to go hang out with you. I'd really like to go to your house. Even though this guy is like the biggest sinner out there, and everybody knows it because he's a tax collector. But guess what? Jesus says, you know what, I really want to just spend some time with you. I want to just talk to you and listen to you. That's what love is. He's not judging him. And then, of course, the big one that we always think about is when these teachers of the law bring in this lady, and she's committed adultery. And they bring her in, and there's all these guys, and they're really trying to test Jesus. That's all they're trying to do. And so they bring her in, and they caught her in the act of adultery. Obviously, it was a setup. They bring her in, and here's all these guys, and they're testing Jesus, and they say, hey, teacher, what do we need to do with this one? Do we need to stone her? And of course, they were testing him, and Jesus saw right through it. And so Jesus thought about it for a little bit, and then he's like, you know what? I'll tell you what, anybody that hasn't sinned, if you'll go ahead and throw the first stone, that'll be all right with me. And then he went down, and he started kind of writing in the dirt, piddling around. No telling what he was writing. It'd be real cool to know what he was writing. And then in a little bit, he looks up, and he sees the lady, and he asks her, he says, hey, where's your accusers? Where's all those guys that were, ready to stone you? And she goes, they're gone. And he goes, well, of course they're gone because, I saved your life, and basically I'm the hero, and you could have been stoned because you did something stupid and you're a terrible person. No, that's not what Jesus did. That's not what Jesus did. He didn't go ahead and talk about how great he was. He didn't go ahead and remind her the things that she did. He didn't need to. Jesus gave her compassion. He didn't remember her wrongs. He just went and talked to her and said, go and sin no more. He just showed her love. He showed her compassion and said, go and sin no more. Man, what do you think that lady did? I mean, she knew what she did. She knew that she got set up and all that kind of stuff. And she knew that she could have died. But Jesus said, go and sin no more. So we have that example. And then one more before another good one. We have Peter. Peter is one of the disciples, and Jesus is sitting there, and Peter denies Jesus 3 times. And Jesus, hey, Peter, and Peter's like, Jesus, I love you. You're the bomb, and I'm going to stay with you, and we're going to be, all the way to the end. I'll die with you and for you, all this kind of stuff. And then guess what? Peter denies Jesus 3 times right before the crucifixion. And so then after Jesus is resurrected, instead of Jesus going, wow, hey, Peter, you're a jerk. You're not on my friend list anymore. You're not a disciple. I'm marking you off. Game over. No, Jesus didn't do that. Jesus forgave Peter. He showed him love. He forgave him. And not only did he forgive him, he showed him that he still trusted him and said, hey, Peter, I need you to feed my sheep. I need you to take care of my sheep. Feed my sheep. And Peter knew what that meant. And then another one of my favorites is, this one's kind of hilarious because the Bible does have some funny stories. So basically you have Jesus, and he's teaching as usual. And these people, these mothers and maybe some dads too, they start bringing their little kids. And they bring their little kids to Jesus to heal them, because maybe some of them were sick, and maybe some of them just wanted to have Jesus touch them and heal them or whatever. And so they're bringing these little kids to Jesus, and then all of a sudden the disciples see that, and they're like, whoa, time out. This is not children's church. I don't know if you figured this out. This is not children's church. This is adult stuff. And I don't know if you know this, but the teacher there, the master, he's an important guy. And he doesn't need to be messing with little running, snot-nosed kids. So you need to keep those guys away. We're doing adult stuff. Jesus is supposed to be over here. You're taking time out of the real problem, and we need to get Jesus over here. So y'all guys go ahead and keep your little kids and go on. And this one's such a good one. I'm going to go ahead and read it. And it's in Matthew 19, if I remember right, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so this is how it goes down. Then little children were brought to Jesus for him to place his hands on them and pray for them. But the disciples rebuked those who brought them. And Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." You see, these little children, that's exactly what heaven looks like. And Jesus was trying to explain it to his disciples that had been there with him the whole time, and they'd been listening to all his teachings and preachings, and they couldn't get it. They didn't understand about love. These little kids, these little children, they had unconditional love. They would love you even if you, whatever happened, they still loved you. And they were innocent. And Jesus was trying to say, you need to be like these guys. You need to be innocent. You need to be blameless. You need to have unconditional love. So that is examples, biblical examples of what love is. And I'm just going to take a pause for just a second, because I thought about this earlier today. And those are a couple of my favorite, especially the paralytic and especially little children. And if you don't have a favorite, you can use one of mine. But if you don't, you probably need to have a favorite. You probably need to find some favorite story, because I'm telling you, the Bible has a lot of stories in there, so you don't have to plagiarize mine. You can probably get your own. But you probably need to find a favorite. So now back to the lesson. Some of you are probably asking, oh, that's great, Russell. Those are good biblical references and blah, blah, blah. But what about, we're living in 220 now, and that's 2,000 years ago. So what does love look like now? And basically, there's a ton of examples of love. And here in Fairmount Park, there is a billion probably examples. And I'm going to throw out some. And you probably aren't supposed to do this, but obviously I really don't follow rules very much anyway. So I'm going to throw out names. And these people, and there's, like I said, a ton of them, but these people I have either seen or that come in contact, and I've seen the love or seen it somehow, or it's touched me. And so the first one, and I've just got a few of them, about 10 or something real quick, and one of them is Roy and Betty McQueen. These guys, they haven't even been at Fairmont, I don't even know, maybe 2 years? I don't know. They haven't been there that long. And when COVID came out and everybody had to lock down, guess who the first people were that called and said, "Hey, Russell, are you okay? Y'all are locked in. Do y'all need something? Do y'all need any food? Do y'all need anything? Because, I just wonder, or you need to just talk? I was just calling to check in on you." These guys showed love. That's a great example of love. Maybe it's Becky and Lynn Carlson, and they send these cards of encouragement in the snail mail. In snail mail. People don't even do that anymore. Yes, they do. They send these cards to people who maybe their families have cancer, maybe the families have had somebody pass away. They send them encouraging notes. And a lot of people do this. I'm just saying these are people that I've seen. And they say, "Hey, thank you. We're thinking about you, and we're encouraging you." Or maybe Eddie Reed in the work that he does with the Family Promise. These people are trying to start a new life. They've got a family, and they're trying to get a house. Man, what a great example of love helping these people. And it's funny because God can even work with like big cowboy-looking boneheaded guys like Nelson Patton. Think about it. Nelson runs around in his big old truck and stuff, and what does he do? He goes over to the little ladies' houses that they can't mow their own lawn. So Nelson goes and throws the mower in the back of his big old truck, and he goes and mows the lawn. Or maybe he goes and puts in a whole door because they can't do that. It's an awesome example of love. And all the people, I've got still a few more, when we have funerals here at the church, and a lot of these people, you don't know who they are, the greeters and stuff, but like when we have funerals here, and the people, the families need food, there's a ton of people. Nobody knows who it is. They're like ninjas, and they bring the food, and then they go ahead and clean up afterward. You never knew they were there. They're like the food ninjas. Then you have like the jail ministry, Cheryl Valley and Carter and all those guys. They go to the jail. How many people want to go to the jail and talk to Jesus, talk about Jesus? That's a great example of showing love. The benevolence ministry. You got one that I thought of and I'd forgotten and I remembered it was, and she's not doing it right now, but think of all the years of love that Janet Hayes had in teaching those little kids, the little bitty tiny ones that they don't even know what's going on. And Janet Hayes did that, I think, for over 25, 30 years. What a great example of love. And Don and Gil working with the 49ers or 39ers or whatever Niners they were, and for over 60 years being in the ministry. I mean, those are examples of love. And my last one is this one. A lot of these examples of love are the church sponsored. I'll say church sponsored. And this one is one person. And I just found out about this one. So about a month ago, I asked the church, my little sister had told us that she's having breast cancer. And I asked the church for prayers, and she was going to have her first chemo treatment. And so we're leaving, it's Sunday or whatever, and we're leaving, and Paula Gower goes up to Melissa, and she says, "Hey, Melissa, can you get me Russell's sister's address?" So Melissa's like, "Yeah, no problem." So she gets my sister's address. Okay, whatever. 4 or 5 days later, I get a picture, a text, and there's a picture of this little stuffed elephant. Beautiful little guy, but a little stuffed elephant. And then right beside it was this just awesome letter and a story about how this ministry started. And I'm teasing you because I'm not going to tell you anymore. You're going to have to ask Paula about it. But it's something that she started herself. And she goes around, and people that have cancer, she sends this little elephant to them. And you gotta have the rest of the story Paul Harvey style, because it is awesome. And when I heard that and I thought about that, I came across this quote, and I thought it was so awesome. And it says, "To the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world." Wow, that is awesome. What a great way to show love. So, in conclusion, if to sum it all kind of up, if God is love, and we are supposed to show love by the fruits of our spirit, the real question is, can people see our love out there in the world through our lives as easy as you can see my Spurs jersey? And if they can't see that love, then maybe we need to spend a little more time in this book right here, possibly. Let's go ahead and pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for just a beautiful day, Father. Thank you for just loving us and giving us the greatest example of love, your Son, and his life showing what love really is. Father, help us to every day show our love for you to the world, and help us to always be a shining light in a dark world. And it's through your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you for your lesson tonight. love the examples, not only of the examples of love of the Bible stories, but also the personal stories from here at Fairmont Park. Those were great stories. So we appreciate you getting us off to a great start and look forward to this series as we look at the fruits of the Spirit. Also, thank you to Tyler and Chelsea Bethea for letting us, giving us some information, letting us learn a little bit more about them. And kudos to little Leia's Bible school teachers that somehow inspired her to love to read the genealogies of the Bible, and that's pretty awesome. We're so glad you're here tonight, here at the campus and through online. We hope you'll join us Sunday. You guys have a great week. Good night.